Somewhere in the United States there is a person who bought a backpack. They walked into a store or they opened a website and they bought a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack. The transaction was recorded. The date was recorded. The register number was recorded. The payment method was recorded. The store's cameras were running. And because this product is sold exclusively through one retailer, every single purchase of that backpack across the entire country dropped into a single corporate database that the FBI accessed in February of 2026. It is now April. Nobody has been arrested. A retired FBI supervisory special agent went on CNN in February and said something that almost never gets said out loud about an active investigation. He did not say it was a promising lead. He did not say investigators were cautiously optimistic. He said the word guarantee. I guarantee you they are knocking at people's doors. That was day 15 of the investigation. 58 days later the public ledger of what came from those records is completely blank. Tonight we are going to walk through exactly what the Walmart database contained, exactly what the FBI was positioned to find inside it, exactly what the 3 possible explanations for 58 days of silence actually are, and exactly what that silence tells us or refuses to tell us about where this investigation stands right now. Hit that like button right now. Share this video immediately because this is the most precisely documented unanswered question in the Nancy Guthrie investigation and every person following this case needs to understand the full forensic weight of it. Subscribe to Black Veil Crime Files with notifications on because when this lead produces a public result we will be the first channel breaking it down completely. And stay until the very last second because the 3 explanations for the silence converge at the end of this video into something that demands your full attention. Let us start with the object itself. The night of January 31st and the backpack on the porch. Nancy Guthrie was 84 years old. She had a pacemaker. She required daily medication. She could not walk 50 yards without assistance. On the night of January 31st, 2026 she was dropped off at her home in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, Arizona at approximately 10 minutes to 10 in the evening. The neighborhood where she lived was quiet, affluent, with long driveways and towering saguaro cactus north of the city. Houses set back from the road. Large lots. Neighbors who valued their privacy. The kind of place people chose specifically because it felt removed from vulnerability. That remoteness became a liability. Sometime in the hours that followed, in the deep quiet of a Tuesday night, someone came to her door. That person wore a mask, carried a weapon in a holster, moved through the property with the deliberate rehearsed calm of someone who had spent considerable time planning exactly what would happen when they arrived. They reached toward the Google Nest doorbell camera mounted at the front of the house with the specific intention of eliminating the record of their visit. The camera disconnected at approximately 1:47 in the morning on February 1st. The footage of the suspect approaching the door was captured in the seconds before that disconnection. Nancy Guthrie did not have an active cloud subscription that would have preserved that footage automatically. Under ordinary circumstances those images would have been overwritten and gone forever. What saved them was the architecture of modern cloud infrastructure. When motion is detected by a Nest camera, data begins processing immediately and travels through layers of back-end systems toward servers that handle compression, formatting, and storage. Because that process had already started before the camera was physically disconnected, fragments of the footage remained embedded in the system. Not accessible to the account holder. Not preserved as a conventional recoverable file. But present. Technically, residually, verifiably present. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed on February 10 that the footage had been recovered from residual data located in back-end systems through direct partnership with the private sector company operating those systems. A cybersecurity expert described the process as finding a single needle in an impossibly large haystack. They found the needle. What that footage showed changed everything. The suspect was male. Approximately 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10 inches tall. Average build. Dark clothing. Black gloves. Sneakers. A ski mask. A handgun in a holster. what appeared to be a flashlight held in the mouth, and a backpack. A specific backpack. A black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack. Forensic analysis of the footage confirmed the identification through the backpack's physical features, including reflective pieces visible on the front straps that matched the specific Ozark Trail model. And the Ozark Trail brand belongs exclusively to one retailer: Walmart. What a Walmart transaction actually is. Here is what a transaction at a large American retailer actually is. It is not just a sale. It is a record. A timestamp on a server. A store number. A register number. A product code for a specific item. A date. A time down to the minute. And if the buyer used any form of electronic payment, a name attached to a financial account. In the case of an in-store purchase, it is also a face on a camera. In the case of a loyalty account or a retail application, it is a profile that may contain an email address, a phone number, a home delivery address, and a complete history of every other purchase that account has ever made. Retailers like Walmart are not running a corner shop with a handwritten ledger. They are operating one of the most sophisticated consumer data infrastructures on the planet. Every product that moves through their supply chain has an identity. Every unit sold has a history. The moment a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack crossed a Walmart scanner anywhere in the United States, that event was written into a database that does not lose things. Think about what that means in purely investigative terms. In most retail-based investigations, the first obstacle investigators face is fragmentation. A product sold by 5 different retailers requires 5 different corporate security relationships, 5 different legal processes, 5 different data formats. Each warrant takes time. Each data set returns differently structured information. Investigators working multiple retail leads in parallel are managing a logistical burden that grows with every additional source. The Ozark Trail hiker pack eliminated all of that. One company. One corporate security team. One data set. One legal process. One set of cameras to review. The Pima County Sheriff confirmed it directly on the record. The backpack is exclusive to Walmart, and investigators were working with Walmart management to develop further leads. He called it one of the most promising leads in the case. CBS News confirmed that Walmart provided records of all Ozark Trail hiker purchases online and in-store across several months, extending beyond the Tucson area. The scope of that cooperation was not limited to local stores or a narrow time window. It was broad. It was comprehensive. It was, by every public account given at the time, everything law enforcement needed to find this purchase. The guarantee and the gap. Retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Jason Pack said it on CNN in plain language in February of 2026. The best piece of information and the best lead they have right now is that backpack in that video that they released. They are seeing who purchased these over the past few months, and I guarantee you they are knocking at people's doors that involve these backpacks and just trying to run down each of those sales. That word, guarantee, carries weight. Coming from a retired FBI supervisory special agent with direct operational experience in exactly this category of investigation, it is not the language of cautious expert commentary hedged for television. It is the language of someone who understood the mechanics of the lead well enough to call the outcome with confidence. Former FBI agent John Nance drew the parallel to a federal pipe bomb case in which retail purchase history contributed directly to a federal indictment. He explained exactly how large retailers maintain records that capture the date, time, location, and payment method for each transaction, and how investigators could isolate sales within a defined window, build a purchaser list, and prioritize it against physical descriptors from surveillance footage. He was describing a process that had worked before. In a federal case. With a federal indictment as the outcome. The sheriff confirmed that agents spent days physically reviewing surveillance footage at Walmart locations across the metropolitan area. Not remotely. Physically in stores and back offices, going through footage hour by hour. Investigators were working with Walmart corporate security directly. The cooperation was immediate. The records were provided without friction. Every institutional element that was supposed to work worked. Day 15. Walmart records in FBI hands. Agents physically in stores. Retired FBI agents on national television calling it the single best lead in the entire case. Day 30. No arrest connected to the backpack. No named suspect. Day 40. The public conversation had shifted. DNA complications were now the dominant story. The backpack had ceased to be the story of the week. Day 58. No one outside law enforcement knows what those records said. Not the family. Not the press. Not the 30,000 people who flooded the tip line. Not the retired FBI agents who appeared on CNN and Fox News and framed the backpack as the clearest path to an arrest this investigation had produced. The records exist. The FBI has them. And the public ledger of what came from them is completely blank. What the database was positioned to produce. To understand what has gone quiet, it helps to understand precisely what this lead was positioned to produce. Not in theory. In the specific mechanics of how retail forensics translates into investigative action. A card-based purchase, credit card, debit card, bank card of any kind, generates a legal name attached to a financial account. Not a probable name. Not an inferred identity. A name on a record that links to an address, to a transaction history, and to the account holder who made the purchase. That name can be cross-referenced against the FBI's partial physical description of the suspect from the doorbell footage. Male. 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10. Average build. If the purchaser fits that profile, they receive a visit. Not as a confirmed suspect. As a person who bought a product worn by a confirmed subject in a federal kidnapping investigation. The investigator at the door carries the backpack image. They conduct an interview. That interview either eliminates the purchaser from consideration or it opens a new line of inquiry. An in-store cash purchase where no card exists produces a different kind of record. A camera frame. A timestamp. The in-store surveillance at the register captured whoever stood at that counter on that date. That image can be compared to the suspect profile from the Nest doorbell footage. The comparison either generates a lead or it does not, but the image is there regardless. An online purchase generates a shipping address. Any address is investigable. An address produces a name or an account. An account produces a history. A history produces additional leads. Every path through that data set, card, cash, online, has a traceable consequence. Pack put it plainly. Walmart should be able to trace back all sales over a specific period of time. And that would create many leads as agents tracked down and accounted for every single backpack. Every single one. Not most of them. Every one within scope. At 58 days that process has produced no public result. The complication nobody wanted to name. Approximately 3 weeks after the backpack announcement drew the kind of expert confidence that rarely attaches to any single investigative lead, the sheriff said something that most coverage treated as a footnote. He said this. That backpack is new and is exclusive to Walmart. But who is to say someone did not buy it and put it on eBay? That is what we are looking at. Read that carefully. Because what he was acknowledging is not a minor complication. It is a structural vulnerability in the entire retail forensics premise. A Walmart exclusive product is exclusive at the point of manufacture and at the initial point of sale. The exclusivity ends the moment the product leaves Walmart's possession and enters a customer's hands. Once sold, it can be gifted. Donated to a thrift store. Sold at a garage sale. Listed on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, or any of dozens of other second-hand platforms that do not centralize transaction data in a way that is easily accessible to law enforcement. eBay maintains records of platform transactions under certain conditions and those records are legally obtainable. But an eBay record points to an account, not necessarily to a verified real-world identity. Facebook Marketplace transactions in many cases leave no traceable financial record at all. A backpack sold in person for cash at a yard sale generates nothing that any federal investigation can find. If the Ozark Trail Hiker pack was purchased at a Walmart in November of 2025 by one person and that person sold it to another person in December, then Walmart's comprehensive purchase records point directly to the first person. The first person is not the suspect. The second person is. And the second person's only connection to any database is the moment they walked up to Nancy Guthrie's front door. The investigative path does not end there. The first person becomes a witness. The first person can be interviewed. They may remember where the backpack went, through which platform, to whom. But that path is longer, more uncertain, more dependent on the memory and cooperation of a civilian who sold a used backpack for $10 and may have no memory of the transaction. And if the sale happened in person with no digital trace, that path may simply not exist. That single statement from the sheriff told the investigative community something important. If the Walmart canvas had already produced what the lead was supposed to produce, the conversation would not have expanded into second-hand marketplaces. 3 explanations for the silence. There are only 3 answers to 58 days of silence about the backpack lead. Each one describes a fundamentally different investigation. The first answer is the most operationally concerning. The suspect paid cash. A cash transaction at a Walmart register produces a timestamp and a store camera. Nothing else. No name. No card. No account. No financial thread to pull. Just an image of whoever stood at that register on that date purchasing a black backpack. A cash purchase means that all of Walmart's comprehensive record keeping, every card transaction, every loyalty account, every digital profile, is irrelevant to the identity of the actual payer. The only evidence that survives is visual. And that possibility is entirely consistent with the operational planning visible in every other aspect of this crime. The mask. The camera tampering. The nighttime timing. The advanced surveillance suggested by investigator interest in activity at the property 3 weeks before the abduction. This is not a profile of someone who improvised. This is a profile of someone who thought carefully about exposure. Someone who understood what a card swipe leaves behind and declined to leave it. The second answer shifts the geography. Walmart provided records extending beyond the Tucson area. But beyond Tucson is not the same as everywhere. If the backpack was purchased in a city or state with no other apparent connection to the investigation, the canvas ran in the right direction from the wrong starting point. And the second-hand possibility cuts through both the card records and the geographic canvas simultaneously. If the backpack transferred through a second-hand market between its purchase and the night of January 31st, the entire Walmart data set becomes a map to the wrong person. The actual suspect remains invisible in every record investigators have gathered. The third answer requires patience. It is also the one most consistent with how federal investigations actually operate. The FBI found something in those records. A name. A transaction. A face on a camera. And is using it in an active operation that cannot be publicly disclosed without compromising the outcome. Federal kidnapping cases are not solved in press conferences. They are built in rooms where the public is not permitted. A name in a purchase record does not produce an arrest on its own. It produces a subject. A subject produces surveillance authorization. Surveillance produces financial monitoring. Financial monitoring produces subpoena returns. Those returns produce evidence. Evidence built to the standard required for a federal indictment produces the filing. The filing produces the arrest. That entire chain can run silently for months. It is designed to run silently because the moment a subject learns they are under active federal surveillance, the evidence that has not yet been gathered begins to disappear. The silence around the backpack lead could be the silence of a dead end. Or it could be the exact characteristic silence of a federal investigation building toward something it is not yet ready to announce. What the silence means and what Pack said to whoever did this. Consider the timeline that a federal kidnapping prosecution requires. Investigators identify a subject. They seek and obtain surveillance authorization. They monitor communications. They issue subpoenas to financial institutions, to phone carriers, to digital platforms. Those subpoenas return records. Bank statements. Call logs. Location data. Account histories. Those records take time to process and time to analyze. Investigators look for patterns. They look for connections between the subject and the victim. They look for evidence of planning. Purchases made in advance. Locations visited. Communications referencing the crime. Each piece of evidence generates additional investigative steps. Each step takes time. The clock the public is watching, 75 days, no arrest, is not the clock a federal investigation is running on. The public clock measures visible results. The federal clock measures whether the evidence is sufficient to bring to a grand jury and survive a motion to dismiss. That clock cannot be rushed. Pack was asked about the case again in April of 2026. The arrest had not come. He was asked about new communications arriving at a major outlet. His read on those communications was pointed. He noted the timing as a red flag. He noted internal contradictions. And then he said this. The Bureau does not ignore actionable intelligence out of stubbornness. Their silence is an answer. That sentence was written about other communications. But it applies with equal force to the backpack. Agencies communicate failures when communication serves a purpose. When confirming a dead end redirects public attention productively. Agencies go silent when communication would compromise an active operation. Or when there is simply nothing to say that would not cause more harm than good. Pack also said at the 2-month mark something that deserves to be heard by every person following this case. And then he said something directed not at the public but at whoever is responsible for taking Nancy Guthrie. Every day that passes, investigators get closer. Not further. Closer. They do not know which camera caught them. They do not know who has already talked. That uncertainty is exhausting. He was not speaking into empty air. He was speaking to a person. Here is what the public has not been told about the backpack lead. The FBI has not confirmed it produced a name. It has not confirmed it failed to produce a name. It has not confirmed the records were exhausted and every purchaser identified and eliminated. It has said nothing specific about what 58 days of access to a comprehensive retail database returned. That silence is itself a data point. The word breakthrough was used in real time by real experts about this real lead. It was not invented. It was what February of 2026 looked like from the outside. What April looks like from the outside is different. It looks like a lead that made a guarantee and has not yet delivered on it publicly. That may change. It may change with a federal filing that names a suspect and references a Walmart transaction in its probable cause statement. Or it may be that the backpack, despite everything, did not lead to the person who wore it on January 31st. Both of those outcomes are possible. Only one of them is acceptable. And this case remains exactly where it has been since February 1st. Open. Unresolved. And still moving. If you have information about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, please contact the FBI directly or submit a tip online. You can remain completely anonymous. A reward of $1 million remains active. If you sold an Ozark Trail hiker pack through any platform to any buyer in late 2025 or early 2026, that information may matter more than you know. Leave a comment below right now and tell me which of the 3 explanations for the silence feels most credible to you. Does the cash purchase theory fit the operational profile you have built of whoever did this? Does the second-hand marketplace complication explain why the Walmart canvas did not produce a public result? Or do you believe the third explanation, that the silence is the sound of a federal case being built toward an arrest that has not yet been announced? Subscribe to Black Veil Crime Files with notifications on. Share this video immediately. The backpack is the most precisely documented unanswered question in this investigation, and the answer when it comes will change everything. This is Black Veil Crime Files. I will see you in the next one. Blackheart.